Hello, today I decided to do another what did I use 1 year on video, where I gathered together everything that I got in an art haul just over a year ago and take a look at how much I used them and how much I like them. I'll start off with these professional watercolour brush pens. I already had quite a few of the Winsor & Newton watercolour markers and knew that I liked them, so I'd bought a few more of those to fill in some colour gaps that I had. And then because the Winsor & Newton ones are quite bright and vivid, I picked out a few of the Faber-Castell Albrecht Dürer watercolour markers in slightly more subtle colours. First of all then, no regrets in buying either of these. They're both absolutely gorgeous quality markers. I prefer the brush tip on the Winsor & Newton Pro markers. It's got that little bit of extra flexibility. And they both wash out beautifully, especially on watercolour paper. I primarily bought these for doing backgrounds in sketchbooks, and I haven't done tons and tons with them, but I'll show you the kind of thing that I have done with them. It's just a way of getting lots of colour down quickly on the background and then putting more mixed media details on top. This is another one that's largely watercolour markers in the background. And this is a much larger one that I did. So, for example, you can see I'd used like the sanguine marker here. So yes, I don't use them loads, but definitely don't regret getting them and having them. Another thing from that art haul were some extra luminance colours. I was preparing to go away to Nepal and was gearing up for doing some more landscape pictures, and so I'd picked these landscape colours. I don't often do full pictures just in coloured pencil anymore. I tend to use these mainly for adding details on top of watercolours or other mixed media pieces. So they're not wearing out super fast, but I do use them quite a lot. And luminance tends to be my go-to coloured pencil. So definitely no regrets over my Luminance pencils. I'd also bought this travel pencil case. So it's a handle on the back and a zip around. And it did come with extra leaves in for holding pencils, but I wanted the space for putting paint palettes and water bottle and all that kind of thing in. This is one of a few different art travel setups that I use, and I have used this one quite a bit actually. So for example, when I went away at Christmas and we were going by car, so weight and volume wasn't too much of a worry, I filled this up and took that with me. And I still really like the design of it. It works really well and I've got no complaints about it. I'll put links to the products and also a link to the original art haul video in the description box down below. I'd also bought a fair bit of paper in this art haul. So there are 3 sketchbooks and a pad. So this is the little Talons Art Creation sketchbook. I haven't used it loads, but I tend to use it with my Portable Painter Micro palette when I can just fit them both inside a pocket and do some art on the go. So this one I did during a quiet spell on a craft market. This one I painted actually while I was a passenger in the car from a photo I'd just taken. I think I did that just at a cafe. This was on a beach in France last summer. I think I painted that in the car as well. And then these were a couple I took out on a walk earlier this year. So I do like having something that small from time to time. Also, because I was preparing to go to Nepal, I'd bought myself a new Seawhites travel journal. I hadn't finished up my old one at the time, but I didn't want to take my old sketchbook with me in case I lost it, so I started a new one. So a few of the pictures I'd painted while I was in Nepal. And then I've done a few more plein air paintings in it since. This one was from a photo actually. And then a few from my recent holiday in Greece. So I do really enjoy these sketchbooks. It's not 100% cotton watercolour paper, but I just think they're quite a cheap, cheerful, good little workhorse. And then I'd also bought this Etchr sketchbook, and I absolutely love it, but I've been treating it with far too much preciousness. So I'd done one painting in it when I first got it, and then it's kind of sat there with me not really daring to paint in it in case I messed it up. But this year I've done a couple more, and yeah, I just need to kind of give myself permission to use it a bit more. I think that's it for there. But definitely don't regret getting it. It's a beautiful 100% cotton watercolour sketchbook. And then I've got this Arches watercolour pad. Again, it's a bit like the Etchr sketchbook, where I'm always a bit scared to use it because it's so expensive and nice. I haven't got any pictures in here, just a couple of my test sheets. I have used it for a few things, like these mini paintings, but I sold all of those on my craft market. So lovely paper, and again, need to use it a bit more, or let myself use it a bit more. And then I've got a couple of things that I bought from Jackson's. So I had this large white Posca pen, and as you can probably see, it's been used quite a bit. I really do like these. I've used them for gel plate printing, and I also use them in mixed media sketches just for adding details too. So for example, this big one, I can see that there's some large acrylic marks on it. I mean, in reality, I've got a lot of art materials, and so even materials that I really like, it doesn't necessarily mean they get used all the time, because I like being able to rotate around different mediums and things. But I've definitely not regretted buying any of my Posca markers. And then I bought this Schmincke Horadam titanium opaque white watercolour paint. I had this in my travel palette for a while so that I could mix more pastel-y colours. And again, I have used it, but not loads. It's definitely a very nice titanium white though. So while I've used everything else in this art haul quite a bit, and this is one thing which I have barely touched, and these are Finetec watercolour paints. I think I really like the idea of them. They've got mica in and are very sparkly. But when it comes to my day-to-day art practice, I just don't have much need for sparkles. I've got no complaints about them per se, and when I did my recent big art materials clear out, I did wonder if I should let go of these too, but I decided I've not really given them a fair shot, and I do still want to play with them at some point. Another thing in my art haul was this acrylic storage container. I think it was designed for makeup and makeup brushes, but it's just worked perfectly for my paintbrushes. I've kind of got a system where I've got my roughest acrylic brushes at one end, then my finer acrylic brushes, and then these two sections are my watercolour brushes. But that's worked really well. It sits on my desk and I love it. And talking of brushes, I did buy some brushes in this art haul. So first off, I bought these Princeton Aqua Elite brushes. They're beautiful brushes and I've used these middle two a fair bit. And the little one's quite nice for details. Though over the last year I've gravitated more to really loose watercolour styles. So I've tended to use the softer imitation squirrel brushes rather than these imitation sable brushes. But definitely no regrets on these ones. And then because I was going away, I decided to get some travel brushes a year ago. And I opted for this size 10 Escoda Ultimo brush. And it's been one of my most used brushes. I absolutely love it, and it has been in every travel kit I've put together, and it's holding up beautifully, and it's just a big soft brush. This is the little Winsor & Newton travel palette I put together last week, and I just added in a mini swatch chart to go in there. I figured if I need more mixing space, I can just use inside there. But I just wanted to show you the Escoda Ultimo 1 year on. It just holds so much water, and I use it for all my washes in my sketchbooks when I'm out and about. And then the other travel brush I bought is this silver black velvet No. 6 travel brush. And again, this has gone with me everywhere. The writing's all worn off the handle, but the brush itself has been great. I've liked the No. 6 because you can get a good amount of detail with it. So yeah, these two together are kind of my perfect travel combination. And then the very last thing from my art haul was this Escoda set of mixed brushes. So there was an Escoda Perla travel brush, and I did take this with me a few times in my travel kit. This one doesn't hold as much water as the two I've just shown you, but it's got a more rigid tip, which is better for doing details. It's just got a nice, reliable, firmer brush on it. And I've got no qualms with this brush at all. It's just that because I've done more loose watercolours over the last year, I just haven't had as much need for this one. So there was also another Perla in the set. Again, another nice little firm detail brush. And there was a smaller Ultimo brush. So a smaller version of my travel brush. And I have used this one a fair bit when the smaller soft brush has been needed. These Ultimo brushes are just so soft and hold so much water. They're lovely. Then the other 3 brushes, and there was a Barocco, and I've used it a little bit for finer details with acrylics. It doesn't hold a ton of water, and I'd say it's okay. I'm not blown away by it, so I've not used it loads. I don't think I've used this Versatile 0 at all, really. I just haven't had that much call for smaller brushes. But then this last little brush, it's a Prado, and it's got a little square tip on it. And for some reason, I absolutely love this brush. I haven't used it loads just because I haven't needed it loads. But for some things, it's absolutely perfect. So, oops, got a bit much water on my brush there. It's just really nice for details, and in particular windows. When I was doing my little houses study earlier in the year, I know I'd definitely used it on this one and enjoyed it. I think I'd done like the outer sketching with that one as well. So I didn't have any regrets about getting this set overall. There's some really nice brushes in it, and half I've used a reasonable amount, I'd say. So I think that art haul was a pretty good one. I feel like I chose the materials quite well, and lots of them have become regulars in my art practice. Well, as ever, thanks ever so much for watching, and I hope that was useful. Bye!